Well, good thing we didn't stay on the air to wait this one out. It could be a long time. A Fox Business alert. Alaska election officials won't even begin counting exactly whose names are on all those write-in ballots in the Senate race up there for at least another week. And we have no idea when they'll declare a winner after that, or whether the votes they're tabulating are even legal or accurate or right. We do know that write-in is winning. We don't know if enough of those write-in votes are Lisa Murkowski votes. Joe Miller, the single individual who does lead, waits in abeyance. Joe, I asked you yesterday this possibility. I know you dismissed it, but here we're facing it. If someone has misspelt, Joe, Lisa Murkowski's name, should that ballot be recognized?
Well, we've got a lot of write-in candidates out there. I think at last count, 160 out of the 250 that applied are actually on the list. And I have no idea whether you have other Lisas on there or what. But I think at the end of the day, we're going to come out on top. I mean, if you look at the historical approach that write-in candidates have had, Robin Taylor in 1998, he was a gubernatorial candidate, ran a concerted write-in campaign with actually the endorsement of the Republican Party. And I think something like 5% of his ballots were disqualified. I'm really pretty excited about where we're at right now because the absentee military vote has not yet been counted. And, you know, even in the primary, we took an overwhelming majority of those votes. So we look pretty good. We're excited to make sure that every vote is counted. We're going to have people on the ground to make sure that happens. And like you noted in the intro, we're looking at several weeks before that's done.
It's just weird to me, but you know Alaska better than I ever will, so I'll just proceed to what happens. And guys, if we could show the latest count that was before they took these ballots away to count, and I guess they put them in a freezer for a week, I don't know. But this is the latest thing, and you as an individual are leading. Now, is it fair to say, Joe, that these write-ins could include a variety of names, lots of names? It's assumed that Lisa Murkowski is most of that, right? So the question is whether that difference makes up the 7 or more percent that could be at stake.
Right. And in fact, again, you've got to realize that we have tens of thousands of ballots that have not yet been counted that are absentee ballots. No, those should be counted later this week. And again, we know that's going to close the gap somewhat. In addition to that, we also know that there are other write-in candidates. In fact, we had some Yahoo get on the air here locally on a radio station proudly proclaiming that they wrote Joe Miller in as a write-in. So we don't know what's out there, but we do know in looking at kind of the historical average with other Alaskan candidates in the past that there are always like a fair number, 1% or so, of write-in candidates that really aren't even write-ins. They aren't on the list. So that's going to detract from the overall number. We've crunched some numbers. We know we're still in this race. We're excited to make sure that every vote is counted and counted properly. Neil, you know that there have been lots of weird things in this race, not the least of which was, of course, a major group of federal contractors putting federal money into a federal race to influence it. And so we've got to watch every step of the process to make sure that it's done correctly and that Alaskans' votes are counted properly.
Well, Sarah Palin was kind of unequivocal with me yesterday, Joe, on my kind of all-night marathon here, saying she doesn't think those ballots should be counted. She wasn't disparaging Lisa Murkowski. She just said, you know, there's a system in place here, and there's a difference between intent and reality, and whether your intent is to write Lisa Murkowski or Lisa Murawski or Lisa Mim, unless you get it right, it's wrong, and it doesn't count. What do you say?
Well, you know, she chose to do this. I mean, she went against her word. As she said in the primary, she'd support the nominee, and then chose this route, this write-in route. And so now she's got to live with the process. It's, you know, outside of the normal way, and it's certainly one that requires a lot of effort by the Division of Election, by our volunteers, to make sure that the process is followed correctly.
But Joe, do you see what's going on here? I mean, if it goes her way, if she has her way on this, and you're right, I mean, it depends on what ultimately it stands. She will, as a write-in candidate, especially if misspellings and let's say like that aren't disqualified, she will possibly defeat you.
Well, you know, the possibilities are endless as to what might come out in this race. But the key is, the important factor is here that people maintain their eye on the process. They need to get involved, especially if they're a Joe Miller supporter. Go to joemiller.us, get engaged in the process, and ensure that we do everything possible, including contribute, to ensure that this process is done in a way that the Alaskan voter, their intent, the Alaskan voter, their ballot is counted properly. Again, throughout this process in the general election, we've seen a number of things happen that are outside the law. We want to make it clear that our intent is to ensure that the ballots are counted properly.
Let me ask you, Joe.
We've got plenty of people coming into the process.
Sorry to jump on that thought, but just this final question.
No, that's all right.
Is it your sense then that from the official Republican Senatorial Committee, they've had kind of a hands-off view of this? And I guess they feel, well, whoever wins, it's a Republican. They assume Lisa Murkowski as an independent votes as a Republican. They assume you win. They got a Republican. So they're not exactly running to your defense on this. Does that trouble you?
You know, again, it does not. It's the Alaskans that matter here. We're absolutely going to come together, particularly those that have supported us through the primary in general, to make sure that the process is focused on. I mean, I think that this country as a whole needs to be concerned about where we're headed. I mean, this is a country that's deeply in trouble. I mean, we're nearing bankruptcy. If the American people do not become engaged and recognize that the reason that where we're at today is because of a bipartisan problem, I'm not sure if we're going to be able to turn it around. But there are people out there, a lot of strong people out there, that want to make a change, want to make a difference, and I'm certainly one of them.
Yeah.
And so hopefully those people will come together to support this process now to make sure that the right result is reached.
Was there ever an Alaskan soap opera? Because this is it, Joe. We're watching it closely, though. All right? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Neil.
What a mess, huh?